Hello, my beautiful co-creators. Lilou here on the Juicy Living Tour. Today I'm in Chicago with Ellen Gunter. Hello.
Hi, Lilou.
I was introduced to Ellen's work via Carolyn Mace, and when I was here about a month and a half ago, and today we're sitting here on this beautiful day outside, beautiful sunny day in Lincoln Park with the John Hancock Tower and downtown Chicago. One of the last beautiful days probably of the summer.
Yeah, I know. Well, winter's coming on. We had 90 degrees about 4 days ago, so it's about time for fall to hit, and then winter about a week later.
Yes. I really loved your book and love your passion and your story and because I think your story really can open up a lot in the environmental movement and help us to reconnect to the earth and really get real with ourselves about where we're at in relationship to the earth, and which is also to ourselves really. And there's many facts. You wrote this book in over 3 years, and I bet the book is called Reunion, by the way, how we heal our broken connection to the earth. But you came yourself to a realization. Tell us about that process, because you considered yourself as an environmentalist since your teens. Yeah. Tell us where that whole process and where you're at now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as I told you, it was, somebody handed me a copy of Silent Spring when I was 16, and I was aghast at what I read. And it's really like, if you're only going to read one book about the environment, then that's where you should start. But I was so aghast at at what I was learning, and basically what she's saying is in this book that we've kind of lost our way with how we treat the earth. And in her day, it was with DDT, and that seemed like a big enough horror story. And nowadays, of course, the assaults are coming from every angle. But and as you said, I'd always sort of considered myself an environmentalist and did the right thing. I recycle and I do all the things that are supposed to make your ego feel a little bit better about about how you're dealing with your day to day. But I also knew there was something missing. And I never ever saw this coming, I've got to say. But I was at my 60th birthday party, and a friend of mine was there, and we started talking about doing a little book together, 30 pages, about how to bring sacredness into your landscaping. I thought that after all the work I've done with Carolyn over the years, I thought, of course, that makes a lot of sense. And, I call this process spiritual subversion, because if I'd known where that was going, I don't know if I would have had the courage to move forward, but I did, thank God. And that turned into a 3-year study. And it changed my life. It changed who I am. It gave me a whole new way of thinking about what I'm on this earth for. And, as Carolyn would say, it's about finding your calling. And it wasn't a job. It wasn't a 30-day wonder or a 30-page wonder. It transformed me. And I thought I knew a lot about the environment, so and I also wanted to give other people a chance to learn a lot. They didn't have time to take off 3 years like I did and do this. So I think the book lets you really see that, see everything, where we are, how we got here, and how we reconnect. But on a personal level, I was pretty astounded at how this process, once I walked into it, once I said yes to this, and I clearly heard it, then everything was choreographed. All I had to do was show up for work every day. And, as I mentioned, I didn't really have any idea where to begin. I certainly didn't know it was going to go where it was going to go, but where it did go. But I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and it just was there in my head. And I fired up my laptop and sat down and wrote a 17-page outline. I don't know where it came from. It didn't come from my left brain, but it came from someplace. And that outline became the book. And as long as I showed up for work every day, as I said, it transformed me. And from month to month, year to year, I thought, is this ever going to end? But I never for 1 second hesitated. I knew as surely as I'm sitting here in this unbelievably beautiful spot with you, that I would finish it and that it would be good, and that it would be one of the reasons that I was born to this planet in the first place. So, yes. And so when people say to me, what can one person do? And I'm too old and I'm too tired, I just go, no. You don't get to run that by me. I'm 64, and I feel like I'm just getting started. So, go for it.
Tell us about those humbling moments. Tell us about one moment where you were maybe on your knees, even as Carolyn describes, and you were humbled by this process and what you have learned about you or even your own connection to the earth.
Oh, sure. And as I said, I thought I was pretty connected and pretty knowledgeable. But this goes way beyond data. Yeah. This is about who you are in your soul. And it's not just an ego gratification, and you have to kind of put that aside, because we all start there, and God knows we need our egos. I need my ego to kind of watch out for me while I cross the street, but so it's got its place, and that absolutely is necessary. But your soul's journey is a very, very different animal, and if you agree to go on it, there's that old saying about if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But if you start, then it will drive you crazy if you don't finish it. So I was gifted with an amazing calm, and there were a lot of reasons to be freaked out, and just many, 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 and all kinds of people told me I was crazy, and what are you doing, and this is a waste of time, and on and on. But there was a fire burning in me. There was always a fire burning in me, and there'd be many nights and I went into a kind of a schedule where I would just write until I couldn't keep my head up anymore, and I had this unbelievable energy that just, it's really never left me. It's still kind of burning in me, and there were times when it would become overwhelming, but I remembered what my spiritual director said to me, and he said, it's all about surrender, and surrender doesn't mean annihilation. That's a kind of an American version of what surrender means. It means giving up and being overwhelmed. But what it means is that acknowledging there is a higher power than you, and acknowledging that you don't know all the answers, nor do you have to know them. Your job is to have faith and move forward one step at a time. So, there were many, many nights when I was by myself in the dark and just, feeling my way. But I never, ever felt abandoned. I always knew that this was exactly what I was supposed to be doing.
And yet at times, I bet you felt overwhelmed with this information and probably even sad, and you got affected emotionally and physically probably.
Oh, definitely. And, it was absolutely shattering. It was shattering to uncover this information, to see the state of lassitude that we have fallen into in this country about facing this, and knowing that this is a big journey. It's a big set of problems, but it's also so rife with hope. What thrills me, what I get up every day and see more and more, is how many young people are coming alive with this, and they are the future of this planet. Let's face it, they're the ones who are going to have to solve this. My time on here, I won't be on this earth as long as these young kids coming up. I seriously doubt. So they have just a completely different attitude toward things. For one thing, they've grown up learning to be connected, and granted that's an electronic connection, but for them an invisible world is totally normal. They don't know how a cell phone works or why when they click send an email shoots off and it's someplace else in 2 seconds, but they believe that process. They know that it will absolutely work. And so we've got this invisible connection that we're all becoming kind of aware of, that we are a planetary village, that that the knowledge that I share can be on the other side of the globe in seconds. So we're beginning to see that not only do we have that invisible connection that is electronic, we also have one that is soul connected, that is soul based. And that old saying about all is one is what keeps coming up over and over and over. And it's really the message that the book has, is that I can't do anything that doesn't affect you, and you can't do anything that doesn't affect me. That is how tightly knit, woven together, connected we all are. So as we begin as baby earth stewards to recognize that, to basically take that into ourselves, not just into our left brains, but into our magnificent intuitive right brains, and to find our that place in our hearts, that compassion for this incredible planet that has birthed us and nurtured us and will give us a final resting place. There's a reason why the Bible doesn't start on an Arctic ice floe or on an island. It starts in a garden. Mm-hmm. you know? And I don't think that symbolism is not lost on me. Why would it start in a garden? The garden is the seat of life. You know, it is the seat of life. It is the seed of life. Everything comes from, you don't survive without a garden. Somebody somewhere had to have a garden for you to be able to get through your day. So one of the things that I do in the book is to teach people how you make this connection. And it can be as simple as going outside and sitting on a bench or sitting on a rock like you and I are doing right now in the shadow of downtown and just listening. You know, Saint Benedict wrote this wonderful set of rules, and the very first word in that book is listen. And he's not saying listen to me, he's saying just be present. Be present to your life. Let that come into your heart. Let your heart open up, because you know, I love one of the things that Carolyn said one time. She said, if there is a physical location for your soul, it's behind your heart. It's not going to get there through your head. It's not data, you know, it's your soul. So it can be as simple as something like that, and nobody has an excuse for not doing this. It doesn't have to. You don't have to go to an island or go on a cruise or spend a bunch of money. It's about you and nature. And nature is basically another word for God. You know, and this is what has been created for us. And it's up to us to treat it with the love and respect and that it deserves, and to honor it, because we're ultimately honoring ourselves.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's time to honor ourselves. It's time to honor nature, where most of us are running to pay the bills, to do a job, and then we feel we don't have time. And how do you find time? And it's always there's always a no in there. There's always a no, and not a willingness to try, and there are baby steps. There is a way. It's as we connect to ourselves, we connect to the earth. It's the same. Is it?
Right. Yeah, it is. And the baby steps, that's a very good analogy, because you know, a baby crawls and then walks because it's got to build up its muscles. It's got to build up its stamina. It's got to build up its sense of balance, and say, wow, how do I get to all these great things that I'm beginning to take in? And that's very similar to your soul's journey, and also to your reconnection to nature, which to me are just first cousins, if not, you know, Siamese twins. They're just absolutely, they go together. So, but it does take a commitment. It takes a consciousness. You know, I tell people, yes, go ahead and recycle and drive a Prius and all that other stuff. But if you're not doing it with a consciousness, then all you're doing is driving a Prius and recycling bags, you know. So be willing to stretch yourself. Be willing to, you know, to build that spiritual backbone, and just do something. If you can't, start something for 5 minutes. Go for a 5-minute walk.
Yeah. I think it really starts too with knowing that we don't know.
Yeah.
And to step in this unknown, and little by little, as a newly born, rediscover this world as it truly is, because we don't really see what's really going on, and it doesn't have to be a hurtful process either. This is not what we're talking about here.
No. It's a joyful process, because you're connecting to your heart, to your soul, to your spirit, to what birthed you, to what you came from, what you're going to go back to, you know. And so we're all part of this continuum. And no, it's not a sad process to me. It is complete joy, and it is something that you do one little step at a time. And you know, and I tell, you know, some of the people that have talked to me after reading this book, just go for a walk, go for a 5-minute walk, go sit on a bench in a park, go do something similar to what we're doing. It doesn't even have to be a beautiful place. Every place has value. Get to know your neighborhood. Get to know, I mean, how many people watching this can tell me what direction the sun comes up in their house? What directions? I mean, what bedroom does it shine through first? Where do you see the moon, you know, in the summertime? You know, which way does the wind blow most often when you're having a storm? You know, just little bitty things like that will show you how little you're paying attention and how easy it is to start paying attention again. So, and one thing leads to another. As you begin to open your heart up, to open your mind, to open your eyes, your very eyes, to what you're beginning to see, the world gets way bigger. It gets so much deeper, and you begin to value it. You know, the first thing we teach children is to name things. And why do we do that? Because it teaches them to differentiate, and things can become precious to them. We get named because it gives us our preciousness. We are named. We are individual. That person carries the preciousness that is assigned to that name. So when we name things, it makes it harder to destroy them. So get out there and if you learn 5 flowers during the summer, fine. Join a community garden. Get some clay and work with it during the wintertime. Plan your garden for what you're going to do in the spring. Support your farmers markets. Be in nature. Yeah. Whatever that means to you and wherever you live, find a way to be in nature, and it will speak to you. It will enliven you, and it will heal you.
This journey on the Juicy Living Tour brought me to Sedona, and I'd done the whole series on gardening. I was really surprised life brought me to do this, especially in that place of the world. And I found a lot of people that said how by just starting a garden, by putting our hands in the earth, just that thing helps us to reconnect to our true potential, reclaiming our independence also with everything, because otherwise we're victims.
Yeah, right. Well, we come from dirt. We are dirt. I mean, to go back to that analogy of in the beginning of the Bible, and I'm not pushing religion or anything. I'm just saying that, that story, man is created from a handful of dirt, and then, woman is created from a piece of that man. And so, we are dirt. I mean, we come from it, we go back to it, and we are sustained by what grows out of it, so it behooves us to keep that dirt healthy and to recognize it and salute it from time to time. So
what do you think of critical. Yeah, it's critical. And what do you think about the whole seed bank? A lot of people are saying seeds are going to be the most precious commodity.
Oh my God, I wrote a whole chapter on seeds, because if you don't have a seed stock, if you don't have heritage seed that will sprout non-GMO crops for you as a nation, as a world, then when and if there ever is a disabling catastrophe that would prevent us and wipe out wholesale crops, if you don't have that, you can't start a nation. And I open up the seed chapter with a story about what happened during the siege of Leningrad, that these scientists sacrificed their lives to save the seed stocks, and it didn't make any difference really whether the Germans overran them or they sustained themselves. They would not have had a country afterwards if they had not been able to plant their seed. So yeah, seed is very, very critical. There's a wonderful woman named Vandana Shiva who is what's known as a seed activist, and there is a lot of work. If you want to choose to be a seed activist, there's plenty in the book that will tell you how to do that. But I mean, we all start from seed. So if you have a contaminated seed system, if you don't have healthy stock from which to grow the food that will sustain you, then that's a very, very serious problem. And people are becoming more and more aware of that. And the whole GMO thing is just it's a whole nightmare. But it can be undone. All this stuff can be undone. It can all be healed. There are ways to get around this and to get us back to where we need to be as a planet and as earthlings.
What do you think about the Norway and what Norway is putting in place with that big...
that Svalbard? Yeah, I mean, the Svalbard is just amazing. They're doing food stock. There's another seed store and Norway's is unbelievable because they said that even if we have global warming and atomic wars, they'll be there for 1,200 years or some crazy stuff. So that's dynamite. There's another place that I forget where it is now, but they're not only saving the seed stock from food, they're saving it from trees, because we have to have trees. All the trees that you see around here, unless they're pines or something, they're all carbon carriers. They all pull carbon out of the atmosphere. So every time we lose a tree, we're not only losing the shade and the carbon drawing capacity of that tree, it gives that carbon back to the atmosphere. So trees are, that was a brilliant idea. I thought, yes, I'm glad somebody thought of that. We have to have more than just the food that will sustain us. We need forests.
Uh-huh. Tell us about other actions and other projects that exist around the world that really inspire you and give you hope as for the future.
Well, I was telling you earlier about some of these incredible projects that are coming up that are so destructive, and like the tar sands thing that is currently happening in my country with TransCanada's trying to run a 1,700-mile pipeline of this very peanut buttery, gooey, nasty mess that comes under the pristine boreal forest in Alberta, Canada, and they want to take it through our breadbasket, basically, and over 1,800 waterways to Houston, Texas, and refine it and send it God knows where. But and that's a horror. But what I'm seeing in response to that is just really amazing. And there have been actions in Washington, D.C. to bring that to President Obama's attention. And I think yesterday the Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama and 7 other Nobel laureates signed a letter asking Obama, our president, to please not okay this pipeline. And 2 months ago, nobody had heard of that. And that was the action of people who decided to take that on and to use absolutely nonviolent civil disobedience and to bring that to light. And now it's on the talk shows, it's all over the place. But so there is a tremendous power that is percolating under the surface that is coming out and up, because as so many people are saying, this isn't just people disagreeing about where the economies are going. This is a transformation of the human species that we're talking about. And this wonderful woman named Marion Greenspan said one time that it's not just the soldiers coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq who have PTSD. Everybody on the planet has PTSD. This, we all know, we all sense, our intuitions are going off, like bombs in our heads, because we know we can't keep doing this. We can't keep living an unsustainable life that is sucking all of the energy and the nutrients out of our soil and choking us to death with all the stuff that comes off the gas and the oil and the nuclear energy that we're using. So I'm extremely hopeful, and there are new things popping up all the time, and that are going after all the things that that we've talked about, the GMOs and the oil, the gas fracking that's happening all over my country. It's going to be happening in Europe if it's not already happening. So there's kind of a wholesale onslaught to get up as much of this gunk as is humanly possible, and but people are starting to wake up to it. They're starting to see what the price to be paid for is for this. And if we keep ignoring it, we've finally reached a point, I think, where people are saying this bill's got to be paid. We've got to shut this off and find a new way to live on this earth.
Yeah, and it's in our hands. It's in each of our hands, and by doing that with the earth and for the earth, we're doing that to ourselves too. It goes hand in hand.
That's right. This is another way to reconnect. Yeah. When you become a defender of the earth, when you take on the job of being an earth steward on any level, then you are fulfilling one of your destinies as a human being. Who doesn't take care of what sustains you? It just makes sense, and so I encourage people it doesn't matter what you do, just do something. Goethe said, it's not enough to know, it's not enough to be willing. You must do. You have to follow up your beliefs with action. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about, to finish kind of this interview, one of your, that you have something you have so much gratitude for, and you're so moved and touched about the earth, something that really is there, and you're like, wow, and you can be moved to tears just thinking of it.
Gosh, I took a trip this summer to visit a friend of mine in South Dakota, and then we were lucky enough to be able to drive through the eastern tier of states. And I'd never been, it had been many, many years since I'd driven through states like Ohio and Pennsylvania, New York and Maine and Connecticut and New Hampshire. And we took our time, and I was stunned by how individual they are, how unique they are, how absolutely drop-dead gorgeous they are. And I sat for hours and hours just driving on these highways and on the feeder roads and everything, and I just said, oh my God, thank you. I'm so lucky to live in this unbelievably beautiful country. And it just, I wept. I just was so full of gratitude and felt so humble to be alive at this time. We are so lucky to be alive at this time, and I just say lucky us. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorite retorts to people is we are the ones that get to decide how to fix this, and we get to participate in it.
Yeah.
We get to get out there every day and find a way to deliver hope to other people and to make this a better world than we found it when we were born into it.
And as you are connected in this special way to the earth and have gratitude and have your heart opening, your frequency is higher, and new ideas, new beautiful things are magnetized to support whatever was starting to emerge, and whatever is related to that is connected to it.
Absolutely, because it is. I mean, look where we are. This is. We're out in nature, and nature is nothing but creativity. Yeah. I mean, it's constantly regenerating. It's constantly birthing and deathing, and dropping off new trees. And in this little area that we're in, this little prairie grass restoration project, it's to honor that whole process and to bring back what was once here, kind of growing wild, because we need wildness. We can't just have a bunch of landscape that's mowed down. You need the wildness. The wildness is what brings strength to the strains that are dominating, and a lot of our agriculture has lost that wildness. So I celebrate that, and it's so key to, and it's also part of what we are. We need a little wildness in us, to be full, complete human beings. So nature is, it's us, and we're it, and here we sit.
And thank you very much, Ellen, for this beautiful moment and interview. I really feel your passion and your heart to make a difference on this planet. And thank you for putting your book out and just sharing, just taking the time to share this message with the world is really special. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, much love, my beautiful co-creators from Chicago. See you soon.